The revelation that left everyone stunned came not in the form of documents or testimony, but through the quiet breakdown of a young man. Tears streamed down his face as the weight of reality slammed into him like a runaway train. Justin Combmes, who had always lived a life of luxury and ease, suddenly found himself in one of the most perilous situations imaginable. Trapped between the demands of family loyalty and the cold, unrelenting grip of the federal justice system. When the courtroom spiraled into chaos, this wasn't just another high-profile case gone sideways. It was the devastating moment a son realized that the empire his father built had now pulled him into a crisis that could destroy everything, even cost him his life. The assault on his future, his reputation, and his freedom came from directions he never anticipated. But what exactly led federal prosecutors to zero in on someone who, for most of his life, seemed far removed from his father's alleged criminal dealings? The farewell that followed wasn't just a goodbye to freedom. It was a shattering of everything he believed about his own family. Justin Combmes, from privilege to federal target. Now 30, Justin Dior Combmes has spent his life under the immense shadow of his father's sprawling entertainment empire. Raised in a world of elite access, celebrity status, Justin enjoyed privileges that most people can only imagine. Yet he managed to stay somewhat out of the spotlight, especially when compared to his father's non-stop media presence. It went from exclusive prep schools to earning a football scholarship at UCLA, where he played as a defensive back for the Bruins between 2012 and 2015. His athletic success gave him a distinct identity, one that stood apart from his father's. Fame and business ventures. But after earning a degree in sociology, Justin began stepping more into the family business, attending high-profile events and getting involved in various operations tied to Bad Boy Entertainment. That deeper involvement became even more relevant when, on March 25, 2024, the FBI raided multiple properties owned by his father. Justin happened to be present at the Los Angeles mansion, where he was questioned by federal agents for several hours, bringing him directly into the scope of an expanding federal investigation. Now the question is, how involved was Justin? Really? Were his business activities simply part of his career growth, or could they be seen through the lens of federal investigators as participation in an alleged criminal network? The expanding scope of federal investigation. Federal RICO cases often begin by targeting primary figures before gradually widening the net to include family members, associates, and partners. Anyone who might have knowingly or unknowingly played a role in the alleged criminal organization. The timeline of charges tied to Diddy stretches all the way from 2008 to the present day, a span that covers Justin's entire transition from adolescence to adulthood. During those years, Justin's role in family business dealings also grew, potentially increasing his exposure to the very operations now under federal scrutiny. Prosecutors in RICO cases are given broad discretion. Family ties don't shield anyone from criminal charges if there's evidence of informed involvement. And legal history is full of examples where spouses, children, or relatives of main defendants have faced their own charges for their alleged roles. Legal analysts often point out that prosecutors use this very dynamic to their advantage, applying pressure on family members as leverage during plea talks with the primary accused, resulting in emotionally charged negotiations that can shake entire families. Family loyalty versus survival, a psychological battle. Criminal psychology reveals that when family members are tied to alleged illegal enterprises, the emotional strain is enormous. They're forced to navigate an impossible choice: loyalty to loved ones or the instinct to survive. In Justin's case, his bond with his father has always been visible. He's publicly praised Diddy's success and mentorship. That emotional closeness only deepens the turmoil when legal choices must be made. The shift from privileged heir to potential defendant can be psychologically devastating. People who've never had a brush with the law suddenly find themselves facing life-altering consequences. And cooperation agreements with the feds demand total honesty, which can mean exposing one's own family. The decision to testify isn't just legal, it's emotional warfare. Fear, loyalty, and personal identity collide, making these some of the most excruciating decisions anyone can face under federal pressure. Business ties and legal exposure. After UCLA, Justin's role in his father's empire began to grow steadily. He attended major entertainment functions, joined strategic meetings, and started to build his own path in the music world, all within the larger framework of bad boy entertainment. Over time, his involvement shifted from occasional public appearances to deeper engagement in behind-the-scenes operations, the kind that might leave a paper trail. In an industry built on networking, brand deals, and tight business partnerships, these roles can easily blur the line between personal ambition and potential legal liability. In federal investigations, financial records, contracts, and internal communications are critical. If Justin's name shows up in any context that could suggest awareness or participation in illicit activity, even if unintentional, prosecutors may interpret it as part of a wider criminal enterprise. Now, investigators and the public are left asking, did Justin simply grow into the family business? Or did that growth place him in the direct path of a federal takedown? The harsh reality of federal courtroom security. Federal courthouses operate under multiple layers of strict security, especially during high-stakes criminal trials involving high-profile figures. These systems are carefully designed to prevent disruptions and ensure safety at every level, particularly in cases where the defendants could be targets of threats or public outrage. The Southern District of New York, where Diddy's case is unfolding, is widely considered one of the most secure court jurisdictions in the entire country. From rigorous screening protocols at entry points to trained personnel constantly monitoring courtroom activity, every precaution is in place. When it comes to family members of high-profile defendants like Justin Combs, security goes even further. With threat assessments, restricted courtroom access, and coordination with law enforcement agencies to ensure their safety during emotionally charged proceedings. The U.S. Marshals Service, which handles courthouse security, has specialized teams experienced in managing cases that draw national attention and potential risks. This raises serious questions. Under what conditions might a family member of a federal defendant be in danger? And how do security teams identify and manage those risks during such volatile trials? Inside the emotional pressure cooker of the courtroom, federal courtrooms don't just impose legal order, they exert immense psychological pressure. For family members sitting in the gallery watching a loved one face life-changing accusations, the experience can be emotionally crushing, especially if they're also being eyed by investigators. The sheer formality of the setting combined with the severity of federal charges is often too much for those unfamiliar with the justice system. Justin's position, straddling the line between supportive son and possible defendant, adds another layer of emotional tension. Every glance, every whispered word, every courtroom reaction is under scrutiny, and it doesn't stop there. The media's presence only amplifies the pressure. Reporters and social media users dissect every emotional display, every tear, every sigh, turning personal pain into public spectacle. Legal analysts warn that this psychological strain can directly affect how family members respond to federal pressure, including whether they break under the weight and decide to cooperate with prosecutors. History repeats. Family ties offer no shield in RICO cases. In RICO prosecutions, family. Bonds don't protect anyone. Federal prosecutors have repeatedly made it clear, if the evidence shows involvement, even through a family business, you're not exempt. The case of John Gotti Jr. is a prime example. Though he claimed he was simply following his father's lead, prosecutors successfully argued that he knowingly engaged in organized criminal activity. This same logic has been applied to numerous organized crime families, and now, increasingly, to powerful figures in the entertainment world. In modern cases, federal authorities are using RICO laws to go after entertainment-based criminal networks operating under the guise of legitimate business. These legal precedents strongly suggest that if investigators believe Justin's business activities amount to knowing involvement, he could very well face the same legal heat. The influence of media and public opinion, high-profile federal cases, naturally attract massive media attention, and with it the court of public opinion. Even family members who haven't been formally charged find themselves in the spotlight. In Justin's case, simply being the son of a celebrity defendant guarantees constant attention. His courtroom appearances are photographed, analyzed, and speculated on, sometimes with little understanding of the legal facts. The media's tendency to sensationalize emotional moments often leads to misleading narratives. Reactions caught on camera, like a single tear or a nervous glance, can be twisted into clickbait headlines that don't reflect the actual case dynamics. This kind of public exposure adds yet another burden on family members, navigating the brutal world of perception while facing the very real possibility of prosecution. Public sympathy for family members entangled in federal investigations often clashes with the hard legal truths about criminal liability and the evidence required to bring formal charges. In Justin's case, media attention could influence not just public opinion, but possibly prosecutorial choices and the mindset of any future jurors, raising concerns about fairness in such a high-profile case. The impact on Justin's personal and professional life is undeniable. Even without formal charges, the shadow of federal scrutiny can unravel relationships, derail business ventures, and jeopardize financial stability. His music career and partnerships may suffer as collaborators distance themselves to avoid unwanted attention or legal fallout. The extensive network Justin built over the years now faces strain as those around him prioritize self-preservation amid growing uncertainty. Additionally, if prosecutors trace financial dealings or assets back to suspected criminal activity, they could move to seize those resources, placing Justin's long-term financial well-being at serious risk. Beyond the legal issues, the psychological toll of living under such scrutiny is severe, bringing prolonged anxiety, emotional fatigue, and a deep sense of instability that affects both personal and professional life. From a legal strategy standpoint, navigating a RICO case when family members are involved becomes a complex dance. Defense teams must balance protecting their client's future while respecting deep-rooted family ties. The question of whether to cooperate with federal authorities is often the hardest, especially when it involves testifying against a loved one. These decisions carry lifelong consequences, not just in court, but within the family itself. Lawyers typically aim to prove that any business row was driven by family loyalty, not criminal intent, but timing is everything. Prosecutors frequently offer short windows for plea deals or cooperation, forcing defendants to make life-altering choices quickly. What path Justin's legal team chooses could decide not just his freedom, but the nature of his relationship with his father going forward. Federal cooperation agreements can create crushing pressure. Family members are expected to provide complete transparency, revealing everything they know, even if it implicates their own blood. These debriefings are exhaustive and emotionally draining, testing loyalty, trust, and the very identity that's been built around family bonds. Experts point out that cooperating with the government can leave permanent scars, fracturing families no matter the final verdict. On a broader scale, the Diddy case represents a shifting landscape. Federal prosecutors are now more willing than ever to go after family members of entertainment figures tied to alleged criminal activity. If successful, this approach could redefine how powerful entertainment families manage business and who gets involved. Increased scrutiny might also embolden other alleged victims to come forward, possibly triggering wider investigations into the business dealings and internal structures of celebrity empires. With the stakes this high, families entrenched in the entertainment world may have to rethink how they protect themselves from future legal fallout. Cases involving entertainment families are shaping new expectations for legal responsibility, pushing wealthy families to rethink how they manage business dealings and shield loved ones from potential legal fallout. The psychological weight and family strain. Federal investigations that involve multiple relatives bring intense emotional stress that often requires professional help. The legal pressure, combined with the fear of prosecution or forced cooperation, can fracture even the closest family bonds. Each member may face different legal risks and make personal decisions that don't always align with family loyalty, creating painful rifts. Mental health professionals who deal with clients in criminal law settings say families in these situations frequently suffer from trauma, high anxiety, and clinical depression. The idea of turning against a loved one in court can trigger immense psychological turmoil. That's why legal guidance is often paired with therapy and family counseling to help families survive both the legal process and its long-lasting emotional aftermath. Even once the court proceedings end, the psychological wounds don't simply disappear. Families can struggle for years to rebuild trust, relationships, and emotional health after enduring federal scrutiny. What lies ahead as prosecutors dig deeper into the case surrounding Diddy? The question lingers: will the investigation expand to involve others, especially family members like Justin? With federal RICO cases often stretching across years, the uncertainty is ongoing. Loved ones must live each day not knowing whether they'll be charged, while trying to maintain a sense of normal life. Legal experts warn that as these investigations unfold, new evidence often surfaces, and charges can expand. That uncertainty makes it difficult for anyone close to the accused to truly know what the future holds. How this case concludes will likely influence how prosecutors treat family members in future entertainment-related RICO cases, and what level of responsibility they'll be expected to bear. For wealthy families across the industry, this moment could mark a turning point in how business and family dynamics are handled legally. Your voice matters. If you're concerned about how these federal cases affect families, make sure to like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. Should family members be prosecuted for alleged criminal enterprise activity if they were simply acting out of loyalty? How do you draw the line between family commitment and legal accountability? We want to know where you stand on this deeply personal and complex issue. And don't forget, hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update as we continue to follow this unfolding story and its impact on families under federal fire. Thanks for watching.